Thanks for joining me. I am discussing with our student ministry the topic of heaven for the next 7 weeks and what is heaven. So I just want to get on here and describe when the Bible talks about heaven, what is it talking about? And so often when you look at pictures of heaven and when you think about heaven, you think about the clouds, you think about this bright light, this place with light and clouds, and you're all floating and flying and it's crowded and it's just this eternal abyss of light and clouds. But there's not really much to it. There may be some gold mansions or things like that. But when we think about heaven, it's often this abstract thing that we really can't attach ourselves to, and so we're not excited about it, and we often will say, yeah, heaven, like, it's better than hell, and it's where I'm going when I die, but there's really not much else in our minds. Well, when the Bible talks about heaven, it actually gives a much more concrete and much more clearer picture of what eternity with God is like. And that's what I mean, and that's what the Bible means when it talks about heaven. Heaven is a word that describes the sky. It describes what's up. And so it says in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And it just means like up, the sky. And so it could be where the clouds are and the atmosphere, or it could be beyond that, where the planets and stars are, or more often it talks about the very place of God. When the biblical authors described and talked about heaven, they were talking about the place where God dwells and where God is, and this is His home. And so, in the beginning, when God created the world, He made a place called Eden. It was a Garden of Eden where God would come down and He would meet with people and He would live with people for a time and walk with Adam and Eve in the cool of the day, the beginning of the evening, and kind of spend some time together. And so Eden was the place where God would come and meet with man. Well, because of sin, God and man were separated, and so they were cast out of Eden, and the enjoyment and the reward and the pleasure and the rest that was found in Eden was now not found on the earth. And so what you see then is this development of God bringing us back to Him and bringing us back to Him through redemption. And so He does this with Israel by having them construct a tabernacle. And this tabernacle was something that He showed Moses. It refers to this in Hebrews, but talks about when Moses was on the mountain receiving the 10 commandments, God was also giving him instructions about how to build this tabernacle, but it was something that He showed him, that the tabernacle was actually a miniature representation of something that was heavenly and real. And so this was the picture of where God lived, of His home, the tabernacle. And so the Holy of Holies, we actually see in Isaiah chapter 6. When Isaiah is in the vision, sees God and sees His throne, he is in this place of Holy of Holies, and he sees these altars, and he sees God. And so he's in the very presence of God. And so when you think about that, the tabernacle was supposed to be a physical, miniature representation of God's heavenly home. And so Solomon, when he's building the temple, talks and prays and talks about how God's home is in the heavens, and how this temple, no matter how great it is, could not contain God. And so he says that the earth is simply like His footstool. It's simply a place for Him to rest His feet. But God's dwelling place, God's eternal home is in the heavens, and it's there that He reigns, and it's there that He dwells. And so it's not talking about the physical heaven that we could ever reach, but talking about this different realm, this place that is spiritual. And we often, when we think of spiritual places and spiritual things, we think of them as less than. oh, if it's spiritual, it's just a symbol, it's just a metaphor. When what the Bible describes, especially in Hebrews chapter 11, it says that by faith we come to understand that the worlds were made by what is invisible and what cannot be seen, what is spiritual. So the material came from the spiritual. The spiritual reality of who God is and his being and his home is the reality. It's more real than our reality. And we, this physical world, is a limited mortal representation of spiritual realities that are eternal. And so when you come to think of it in those terms, is that heaven is more real than this earth. And when we're talking about God's home, we're not talking about a place we could ever get in a spaceship and go to. We're talking about another reality that is invisible to us, but is in behind everything, that influences everything that we experience. And so we then see through Scripture of ultimately the return of Jesus. And when he returns, he brings the spiritual and the material together into a new heaven and a new earth. He recreates everything. And as he recreates everything, you see the city of God, this perfect cube, this new Jerusalem, almost like the Holy of Holies, but now it is a city filled with people and where it comes down on earth. And Jesus reigns as the God-man, so that God and man are now living together on a new earth. So when we think about heaven, we are not just thinking about a spiritual reality that we cannot experience. We're ultimately thinking about this new earth of us living with God forever. See, this is what heaven is about. It is about being with God forever on a new earth, where we get to live and experience in a world like ours, but far better. The symbols, the shadows of this material world are now over. And so what is eternal and what is permanent, what is spiritual, meshes and combines and comes and infuses with what is material. So now you have the meshing of the two. God and man are now living together forever. And so this is what ultimately heaven is about, living on this new earth with God forever, reigning over it, ruling over it, having responsibility. That just like Eden was a place of work where you had purposeful, meaningful work, but yet it was restful, it was good, and it was peaceful. So again, we are living with God and we are working and developing this world in the way we should, and showing this world who God is and how we live. But we're doing it in this eternal home, and it is the spiritual and the material forever coming together. And so I hope this helps. When you think about heaven, what are we talking about? We're not just talking about a place of streets of gold, although there is that, but nor are these like mansions, although there are buildings and glorious buildings. It is ultimately about being with God on a new earth and experiencing the spiritual realities that are eternal for ourselves forever. This is a place that will be so much better than anything you can imagine. Well, I hope this helps. And as you come to think of like, what is heaven like, and what is the Bible talking about when it talks about heaven? It's talking about something that is spiritual and eternal, but something that is physical and something that we can live in, and something that is perfect and good. And so this is something that we can hope in. Well, have a great week. See you next time.